Hey, high levelers, Rayo Daniel here, back for another video. I'm making this video regarding the new IVR feature, the new phone system workflow feature that Highlevel came out with. I've created several videos regarding the LC phone system, some of the fixes and sort of hacks that I found out about to help people out, but I keep getting a lot of questions regarding IVR. And I really want to come here and just bring you some of the facts that I found out regarding if you want to use this, how is it going to be able to be used inside of your business, and how you can make it work or not make it work with other features. So before we get started, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please click the subscribe button. I always appreciate your support. So let's hop into this now. Before we get started here, I want to go into the automation. Before automations, let me sit back and come into just the settings. This is a demo account that we have set up here inside of the Highlevel system. What I wanted to show you here, and I'm just going to start right off the bat, is if you're using the IVR phone system, it will not play nice with any of the other LC phone system features. Boom. Now, a lot of people are probably just going to stop watching this video from this point on, because that's what they've been trying to figure out is, how do I get the call forwarding? How do I get the ring group features? How do I get the missed call text back? How do I get that stuff to work with the IVR feature? And right now, there is no way that I have found for this to be able to work together. No way to do this. So I've contacted support. Even they weren't able to help me out with this. It's pretty much once you set up the IVR system, then the IVR system has complete and total control. It's at the highest priority of all the other LC phone system settings, so that every time somebody calls, it's going to go directly into the IVR settings. Now, that's kind of good and bad. I want to go into the IVR settings and show you how you can do some things. But in the future here, if you take a look at this forward calls number, if you ever have a number in here for forward calls to it, that will not work once IVR is enabled. And if you ever want to use the new ring group features down here, those are not going to function with the new IVR setup here. So for my testing, that's just not going to work. IVR is it. It has complete control, and you have to do everything inside of that particular workflow if you want to use that feature. So I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but for those people that are still interested in looking at the IVR system and seeing how you can use it in your particular business, let's hop over into the automations area and begin our sort of presentation. So right now what I'm going to do is Highlevel has come up with a really good recipe. Now, if you haven't looked at recipes and workflows, these are just some common templates that Highlevel gives you to kind of get you started. So right now, one of the nice things they did is they've come up with this nice recipe for IVR. Now, for those people, if rather than sort of building your own, they did give you a good template for this one. So I'm just going to use this one. There's no reason to create stuff from scratch. When this template, you can just load it, delete the things that you don't need, and just use the things that you do. So one of the things I do want to sit back and let you know about is the IVR system can work with any phone number that you have. So this is something that's a little bit unique and different from the IVR system than other systems. So if you click on the trigger here, notice that the trigger in the IVR system doesn't depend upon whether something is the default number, which is typically different when you have, typically before IVR, when you have a default number, that's sort of your main number that you can get configured, and that's where sort of everything goes. The missed call text back works off the default number. You can't have missed call text back worked off other numbers. That's just not the way the Highlevel system was designed. So right now, it doesn't really matter in the IVR whether it's a default number or a staff or salesperson's number. It doesn't really matter. So right now, in this particular account, I don't have more than one phone number set up. But if I come in here for the trigger and select the phone number, now I'm just going to select this number because it's the only one I've got. But if you had multiple salespeople and you want to create a workflow IVR for each salesperson, then this is where you can do that. Now, this is pretty cool because this gives the IVR system, you can set that up not just for the company level, but you can set it up at the user level, which is honestly super cool. So that is a pro for the IVR system, even though it doesn't work with some of your other features. Now, keep this in mind. You can use the IVR for any of the other phone numbers. If you don't want to use it for your default number, then don't set the trigger up for the default phone number. And if that's the case, if your default phone number is the number that is not being used by IVR, then all the other features I just spoke about earlier will still be able to apply. The forward number, if you want to set a forward number on it, that would work. If you want to set any ring groups on it, that would work. The missed call text back would work. All of those other features come back into play if you do not use IVR for your main default phone number. So I'm going to use it for that because, again, we just have one. But one of the things I want to sit back and look at here, this is a pretty impressive workflow. I'm going to show you some of the things that I like and don't like about this, just kind of share my opinion. But before I get started here, I want to show you the components that we're dealing with inside of this particular workflow. You only have 4. So if you click on the actions and you scroll down here, give me a second. I'm going to see if I can move myself over here. If you scroll down here on the right-hand side, just so I'm not in the way, And we come down to the IVR system. So let's take a look at this. So we've got 4 main components. These are the 4 action items that we can use inside of an IVR. Now, can we use other workflow features besides the IVR inside of an IVR workflow? Sure, of course we can. But there's going to be one problem with that I'm going to show you a little bit later on when we get into sort of the decision tree breakdown area. So one of the things that I want to show you is this option here, gather input on call. Now, this feature is going to be important because this feature is what you set whenever you're going to get a reply from somebody. It's pretty much like, press 1 for this, press 2 for this, press 3 for this. You can sit back and use the gather input on call, and you have to use this because this is the only feature inside of the IVR workflow that's going to be able to listen to the tones on your phone and be able to break out if somebody's pressing a 1, 2, 3, or whatever you have set. So that's going to be important. Say or play a message, that's pretty straightforward. If there's ever a point like a greeting that you want to have a message, that you want to say something to somebody, even if it's whether you play an MP3 voice record or you just have the sort of AI system, whether it be male or female voice, say something, you need to put one of these features in place. The connect to call. You're going to do this whenever you want to forward, let's just say you want to, forward this to somebody else's phone number. Now, this is where you can have connect to our sales team, connect to whoever, press 1 for John, 2 for Jane, 3 for Mary. However you want to do this, you can press 1 and then the connect to call will actually call and dial out that other particular user's number. Now, one of the things about this that we'll take a look at this is those phone numbers have to be configured inside of your workflow. And I'll show you where that is here in just a bit when we go through this particular recipe that Highlevel has for you. And then the last but not least is record voicemail. So if there's ever a point where you've reached the end of your tree and you want somebody to leave a voicemail, you just simply drag this action item, put it in there, and then get it configured and you're good to go. Hey, real quick guys, if you're looking to start your own software company, then click on my free course in the link below. I'm going to teach you 8 ways that you can start your own software company very easily with no money out of pocket, no experience, and absolutely no tech skills. Check it out, click the link below, and let's get back to the video. So let's kind of hop into this real quick. So we looked at the trigger. Good news is the trigger is based upon a phone number. You can have multiple phone numbers in Highlevel, so each trigger can be based upon a particular phone number. Now, notice on this one here, if I do this, notice that these are checkboxes. If I had more than one, then you probably would be able to assign multiple phone numbers to the same trigger. So that's a positive if you want to do that, but you don't have to necessarily. But for this one, we're just going to assign 1. Now, notice on this one, this is a play or say message option. So here's where you get the option of either saying play a message, where if you play a message, you can upload an MP3 voice recording to this, where it will play a specific person. Now, you can have a person from your office. You can hire somebody on a remote site, that maybe has a professional voiceover, do these for you, or if you have that already, just simply upload it. But this right here is where you would actually play a message. If you wanted to say a message, then here's where you would type the text out, what you want it to say, what kind of language, do you want a male or female to do this, and then how many loops, how many times do you want this to play before it sort of times out, waiting for a response from the user. So that right there is sort of the options that you have. So next, you're going to see this right here is where it's going to sit back and actually gather input on a call. So notice this right here at the very top. This is where you need to set this option in order to get the input from a call. So this is sort of like what you need before you can make a decision off what button they press. Or this is the part of the IVR where you're like, okay, I'm going to give them an option. What is it that you want from our services? Press 1, 2, 3, whatever we have available, and then I'm going to sit back and wait for you to say something or press a button to let me know what you want to do next. So this is what you would end up doing. You would play the message here. You could say text to say. This particular message, press 1 by default, press 1 to hear the list of services, press to leave a voicemail, or press 3 to talk to our team. So this right here, obviously, they didn't do a good job with this because this right here should be like press 2 to leave a voicemail or something like that. So, but this is where you can put in here what you want it to say. Now, with this, I will have to say I've tested this. I'm not crazy about the voices. I really wish, there could be some other options here, but either the man or the woman both sounds very AI, sounds very robotic. It's just not very natural. It sounds like you're dealing with a phone system. So if you can play a message, then obviously come here and select play a message. But either way, whether you play a message or say a message, after this particular input, you will now need to have a sort of a map. You'll see the input option where we can now select what option to listen for inside of the call. So here, just to look at some of the other options here, whether you do play or say, the number of loops, how many times you want this to go through before it eventually times out and then hangs up the phone call if nobody responds. This right here, stop gathering after so many seconds. So this right here is after it plays, it's going to wait, in this case, 5 seconds. Let me blow this up here. 5 seconds, and then after that, it's going to hang up. I don't like 5 seconds. Sometimes people are doing something by the time they do this and come back and maybe go to their phone and press the keypad, maybe the keypad's not up, it could be more than 5 seconds, and next thing you know, it's hanging up on them. So probably something like 8 or 10 seconds for me would be a better time for this. And then if you want to, just stop gathering on key press. So if somebody does just press any kind of key, then it just stops that particular process altogether. So so with this, that's the option that you need to have if you want to sit back and be able to collect data. Now, I want to show you this right here. This particular setup, you may not like if your voicemail has sort of a welcome message and a sort of a what to do all built into one. Let me kind of explain what I mean by that. Welcome message caller. So imagine if you play a message. Hey, you've reached ABC Marketing Company. Thanks so much for giving us a call. And that, that's sort of the welcome message. Now, you can't say at this point, you can't tell people at this level, hey, press 1 for this, press 2 for this, press 3. You can't do that because this is simply a say, let me blow this up, say or play IVR. Okay, so you can't do that here. You can only get people to do something or press a button on the options for gather input on a call. Now, one of the things I would suggest here is if you have a message that says something like, hey, welcome to ABC Messaging. Thanks for giving us a call. If you want to talk to our sales team, press 1. If you want to talk to our support team, press 3. If you have all that in one recording, then you don't need the very first step of this workflow. So for this one, if you're going to combine everything together, you're going to simply come here and just say delete action, delete the step. And then here, you can just simply collect input from the call, put that message in here, say play a message, upload your file into the system, and then it can play that welcome message and request input all in one step. So that's a bit of a shortcut here. I know in this particular recipe, Highlevel broke it up, which I completely understand. But if you're doing a welcome message, that's just the welcome message. And then after that, then you're going to have to play or say another message at the collect input because you're going to have to tell people what to press in order for them to choose what service they're looking for. So here from the input from the caller, notice that this right here looks very familiar. This looks a lot like an if-then condition. Now, one of the things about this that I guess I don't like is you have to use this particular input. You have to use this gather input on call in order to hear the digits on the telephone. If you try to sit back and put in an if-then statement here, then the options for this digits, if you ever look at this, if you come in here and select this, notice that I'm going to go through this here. I'm going to try to blow this up so you can see it. So here, notice that when you come in here, you have this IVR gather. Now, this IVR gather is not available on traditional if-then statements. You can't put that in there if it's just a regular if-then statement. You have to use this particular feature of IVR because only then will this IVR gather menu option be available. Then when you select it, then you get this collect input menu that you have to drill into. Then you come down here and get this specific digits. This is specific to the phone system because the regular if-then statement can't read or understand the tone of like what's a 1, what's the tone of a 1, the tone of 2, the tone of 3. Each one of these numbers on a phone has a different tone associated with it. And that's how the phone system determines what it is. So now that you have this, that's one of the things I want to make sure you understand is that if you're doing this, you have to use this gather function and then use this input in order to get this specific IVR digits area. Then, of course, when you do this, you can simply choose any of these options where it just says is, and then for this input, I believe this was a 1. So you can just manually put it in there. So if the digit's 1, notice that this is the branch for press 1, then it can move forward and you can add any other conditions that you want here. But this is just the basic one out of the box. Press 2, press 3. Now, if you wanted to, you can come down here, add a branch. You can come in here and just say, we can continue with this and do press 4. Drill down into this. We're going to do IVR gather, input, digits, select is, put the number 4. You get the point here. You can build this out as much as you want for this. And then they've got this nice little branch here for none. So again, this is very similar to the if-then statement. And what I want to do is save this real quick, save this action, and just save our work here for just the sake of saving it. Now, when you come down here, notice that this caller input breaks it down very similar to branches in an if statement where press 1, press 2, press 3, press 4, and then they've got this press none. Now, if you're ever dealing with a phone system here, this is one of the things I do not like about the IVR phone system. And I'm going to show you why, because when I was testing this, my whole workflow got, it started freaking out when I did this. Typically, when I build a workflow and somebody goes down the path of none, like they're not doing what I asked them to do, or they don't put in the correct response, then typically I want to give them a message, say something, and just say, hey, buddy, press one of these options. I don't, you're pressing something that, this option doesn't exist. Like we only have press 1, 2, 3, or 4, and somebody's pressing 8. Well, that's not an option on this phone system. So now you're going to have to loop them back around, if that makes sense. Now, typically, I would use something called a go-to, the go-to feature inside of the workflows, but I found out very quickly that doesn't work out too well inside of this. Matter of fact, I have not been able to use it, even though I haven't been able to find documentation that says you could or could not use it. It's just the workflow completely freaked out on the screen, and I'm going to show you what that looks like here. But typically, the one thing that I don't like, that I'm going to blow this up, is let's just say if somebody dials into your phone number and you only have options 1, 2, 3, or 4. Somebody keeps pressing something other than 1, 2, 3, or 4. Then if that's the case, they're always going to go down the path of none, because none of the options that they press match one of the other branches that you have. So here, what you're going to see is they're going to have a little say or play, and it just says something. I'm going to show you what this recipe says. You have not entered a valid input. Please listen to the options again and select the right call. Now, the problem with this workflow is that you're going to have to completely build out a whole another branch, very similar to what you did here. You're going to have to build that out again using the none path. That sucks. I was going to say something else, but that's not good. I mean, so that means if somebody puts in the wrong input, you just simply can't loop them back around to the beginning of the message again, which would make sense. I would just simply say, okay, let's go to, give them a message, and then just simply loop them back to the top part of the message where it would listen to the input again. That would simply make sense. That's how I do all of my workflows. So that doesn't work. Let's take a look at that. So let's just say here you would tell people, they would hear on the phone, it would say a message, you have not entered a valid input. Please listen and select the options again. And then from here, once you do that, I would simply go to like the go-to, and I would drop this go-to here and then link the go-to back higher up in the workflow. But whenever I do this and put the go-to in here, go-to cannot be added. Please add it to the end of a branch. So again, it tells you add it to the end of a branch. Let's just simply go here and do go-to. Whenever I did this, the whole workflow kind of freaked out. You started getting all these little flashing things all over the place here. Every part of the workflow started glowing, started flashing, and started getting all kind of crazy on me and everything. And after this, then this workflow became unresponsive. Typically I would be able to drag this or, move this over here and connect this. Nothing. I mean, everything was just kind of like broken here. So it's not like it uses the go-to and it's just not allowing me to connect. Typically I would just drag and connect it back up in here to the manual input area, but nothing. So now at this particular point, the only thing I could do, I can't even use let's get out of here. Hey, that actually worked here. Before, it didn't even let me back up out of here in some of the other ones here, but let's go back into the recipe for the IVR and let's just not do that again. So for me, I have not had very much luck having the go-to function work on there. But since the go-to function doesn't work, now what you end up having to do, based upon what you see, is you have to sit back and build out a whole other input caller. So if they didn't do it once, they didn't press the right button, you can't loop them back to the beginning. You have to build out the whole other workflow again in another branch. Kind of crazy. I don't like that. So you have one option in this particular, you have one or two options here. Number one, you can keep building this out. Now notice if they keep pressing the wrong button. So they go down this is the first time they go down the path. Oh, you put a wrong input. They come down here, they listen to the message again. It goes through the none. They don't listen again. And at this particular point, this is where it comes back to says you have not added a valid option. This call will now be disconnected. So in this kind of recipe, it gives them one option to make a mistake. And if they make a mistake, then at that particular point, and gives it one time. If they do it again, then the call just disconnects. And if that's what you want, then you can sit back and use this recipe. It works very well, but you will have to build out all of these options twice. So you'll have to build them out here on the main level, add all of them. And then if you wanted to, you can simply come here and at this particular point and do this, come here and just do a copy all the actions from here. You can just do a copy and then paste it. You can do that and that will save you a lot of time. But every time you edit this workflow, you'll have to remember that whenever you do this, that you're not going to be, you're going to have to update it in two different places here. So see if I can move myself back over here. So those are the options that you have inside of the IVR workflow. So, let me pop in here again. Sorry, I didn't go through the rest of this stuff here. I was just kind of showing you real quick some of the things that I don't like about it, but some of these options are pretty good here. So if you look at, come down here and you have a list of services, here's a list of the services being offered. You could play a message or have a voicemail recording over, something that you do, if that's what you want to have. You can also come here. This is a great way to just simply say, hey, if you want to, set up a call or if you want to schedule an appointment, please press 2 and I'll text you a link to my calendar. So something like that. So rather than you having to answer those particular calls, those calls can come in through the IVR system. And depending upon the option, you can just simply have at this particular point, if they want to schedule an appointment, you can just send them down a branch, shoot out a little text message, and build a text message where you can just put in, custom value link to schedule a calendar appointment, and boom, they're done. You can have one path to leave a voicemail if you want to, or you can have another path that would go down to, for instance, if you want to have press 3 on this option here, I'm going to blow this up. Notice press 3 says, transfer to call agent. This is the option. I'm going to click on this. Connect to call. Now, when you connect to call, notice on here, when you choose this, you're allowed to choose a particular user. So this right here is one of the options that you have to use the phone number built inside of Highlevel, so that this is not one of those ones that you can just specify a phone number to call. So you can't enter a phone number here. You just simply have to select a particular user in this, and then from that user, if that user has an assigned phone number, then the call will be transferred to that particular person, and then this workflow will end. Now, right now, this is a nice, great feature here. If you take a look here, sorry, I'm sort of in the way again. Record a feature. This is where you can record the call so that when it does come through, you will see a contact record will be created for this particular person, even if it's just a phone number. So the person that called, and then from that call, you will actually see, was this call recorded? And if it was, it'll actually be recorded inside of the conversations area. So that is, again, a pretty cool feature that you have. But I've dealt with multiple different phone systems, and for the most part, this is a really good basic IVR system. I'm really looking forward to having some more advanced features sort of built into this, and just some of the ability to maybe work with some of the other features like the ring groups and things like that. But at least hopefully you've gotten enough out of this video to sit back and say, now I know how this system works. Now I can build it accordingly, choose my correct numbers, add a different phone number if that's what you're looking for, and just keep your default number to deal with the ring groups if they call. So this is where you can start creating a strategy for your business that can hopefully help you out and implement the IVR system and have it work very well for you. So I hope you found this useful. Hope it answered some questions. If you do have other questions regarding just the LC phone system or some of the fixes, take a look at my channel. I do have a couple of other videos over there that answer those particular questions, but I did want to create one for the IVR because people are asking me questions, and I just want to at least let you know what I found regarding what works, what doesn't work, because I keep getting people commenting on my YouTube videos, just kind of beating their heads against the wall saying, why doesn't this work? Why can't I use these features in tandem together? And they just don't work. So I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Hope you picked up a few nuggets of information. If you have, press a like on this particular video. You always support the channel. I appreciate that. I'm looking to grow this thing, and I appreciate it. You guys have a great day, and thank you so much.